Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Napoleon, and today I'm back with another Enlisted episode. Today we're going to be talking about the MKB-42H, a German sniper rifle slash assault rifle in Enlisted right now. In this video, we'll be covering the history, the weapon, and how you should use said weapon in Enlisted. So let's get started. Before we do, this video has been made possible for your friends at Discord, meaning that if you haven't liked, subscribed, or joined the Discord, I highly suggest you join the Discord, because this is actually how I got the MKB-42H, by playing it with my friends on Discord. But that said, let's get started with the video. Before we start with the weapon, let's start about the history of the MKB-42. Contrast for a rifle firing a 7.92 by 32 round were sent to both Heimel and Walter, who then called up designs based on the given specifications. A prototype rifle was then built by both Heimler and Walter, tested at Königsdorf in December of 1940 by the HWA. It was performed poorly, which jammed multiple times, and several barrels bulged, and one barrel had a catastrophic failure in which the barrel just busted, which that's pretty impressive failure. The poor performance was displayed on low quality ammunition. Heimel later tested a failed second prototype for the MKB-42, the MKB-42H, and it was later tested on July 9th of 1942. However, it still had faults. Despite having fired 3,654 shots, the 11 cases separated, 67 were duds, 56 fired on the second trial, with numerous other stovepipe jamming failures, for this design was based on being the prototype design. The MKB-42 was later tested again against the newly Walter weapon designated as the MKB-42W in the front lines, with Heimel being chosen due to better reliability and overall performance. Despite the MKB-42W's slower and better single-shot accuracy than the MKB-42H, it was ultimately rejected due to its questionable action. No further action was taken to improve the weapon's design, as Walter already had their hands full delivering the P-38 pistol to the German army. In light of this, the German army requested Heimel to make another variant of the MKB-42H with minor changes. The MKB-42H then saw service in 1942 and 1943, but as work progressed, Hitler suspended all rifle programs due to infighting within the Third Reich and recommended that the newer submachine guns were to be built. With the fact that he strongly discouraged the use of the 7.92 by 33 cartridge in order to keep the MKB-42 project alive, Heimel renamed the weapon the MP-43, and if you haven't seen my MP-43 video, you should. But that said, we're gonna end right there, and we're gonna talk about the characteristics. Because if you haven't watched my MP-43 video, I highly suggest that you do, because all that information after this part will be in MP-43 video. So, yeah, go watch that video if you haven't. Now let's move on to characteristics once again. In terms of characteristic, the MKB-42H fired from a tilting open bolt and was a striker fired, while the MKB-42W fired from a rotating closed bolt and was hammer fired. However, the MKB-42 was later modified to fire from a closed bolt and be hammer fired, and the MKB-42H used a long stroke gas piston located above the barrel. The barrel locked the MKB-42, which was achieved in the tipping of the rear parts of the bolt down in the locking recesses, cut in the machine steel inserts of the receiver, and the MKB-42W was based on the Walter earlier prototype rifles, the A115, and an earlier odd gas system, which an annual piston located above the barrel. The MKB-W's bolt was 2 lugs, and it was a complicated design. The MKB-42H was made out of stamped steel to take advantage of the maximum usage of stamping and welding needed, and some of that mess work accompanied with no prior knowledge in firearm design, but a force in the stamping and welding industries joined Heimer for the design of the MKB-42H, which the MKB-42W was also made out of stamped steel. The MKB-42H, the Heimler design, also had a long stroke piston gas system fired from the open bolt, which was later fired to fire the closed bolt. The design would eventually become the basis of the STG-44. But that said, that is all of the characteristics of the MKB-42. Let's go on to the stats. In terms of the stats, the MKB-42H is chambered in 7.92, has a hit power of 8, damage reduction over distance of 8 at 10 meters, 6.2 at 100, 5 at 200, 4 at 300, 3.2 at 400, 0.7 at 1000, 0.3 at 100. So basically with those stats, basically just use this weapon within 400 to 300 meters. Armor penetration is 1mm, muzzle velocity is 6.8, rate of fire 590 to 650, reload time of 2.4, vertical recoil of 29, horizontal recoil of 7, 30 round magazine, weight of 4.5, cartridge mass of 16.8, firing modes of auto and semi-auto, and that is only for a 3-star to 4-star MKB. In terms of a 6-star MKB, which this thing can be upgraded to 6 stars, the caliber is at 7.92, hit power is 9.6, with a damage reduction over distance that's 9.6 at 10 meters, 7.5 at 100, 6 at 200, 4.8 at 300, 3.8 at 400. Once again, you wouldn't be using this above 400 meters, but at 1000 meters, this is 0.9, and at 1500 meters, it is 0.4. Arm penetration is still 1 millimeter. Muzzle velocity is 680 meters per second. Rate of fire is 650 to 710. Reload time of 2.4. Vertical recoil 24. Horizontal of 6. Fed system of 30 round magazine. Weight of 4.5. Crusher's mass is 16.8. Firing modes are auto and semi-auto. And that is all for the stats for the MKB-42H. In terms of its overall performance, the MKB-42 is really a devastating weapon. Honestly, you couldn't even get any better than this in terms of its Moscow and Stalingrad, of which you're most likely going to be using it in Moscow. This thing is bloody insane. This is the definition of putting an experimental assault weapon in Moscow in the early war up against the Soviet PPSH and stuff like that. Honestly, if I were to be historically accurate, this is actually going to be pretty much the Germans' counter to the PPSH. No one weapon is going to be better, albeit I personally would still take the MKB-42 because it is technically an assault rifle and is basically serving as an MP-43/1 in Moscow. So yeah, I would still take the MKB over the PPSH, and it is really what's needed to help against the Soviet bias, which, let's be honest, there's a lot. PPSH, AVS-36s, you're going to need the MKB-42. Believe me, trust me. And honestly, this weapon is just straight outright terrifying. There's literally nothing you can do. The only thing that's bad about the weapon is that you can't take off the scope, which a lot of people have complained about. But honestly, it just appears to me that it's more of practice in the sense that you're going to be using the scope a lot of times, so you might as well just get used to it. So yeah, that's it for the MKB-42. It is straight outright terrifying. I can't even explain how terrifying this thing is. This is the definition of a murder weapon. Is also the definition of the assault rifle in the early war. This is exactly what happens when you put experimental weapons in Moscow. But that said, this is the MKB-42 for you. It is extremely terrifying. If you see an enemy soldier with this, run away or just literally try to kill him as soon as possible. Or if you see your ally with this, be assured he or she might be carrying the team. But that said, have a great day, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Discord, and I'll see you in the next one. Now before you leave, I would like to thank you very much for watching this video. I would be honored if you could like and subscribe to the channel. Remember, more videos are coming out, so it is a good idea to click on that notification button. Anyways, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.